So we've been solving systems of equations by substitution for a while. We've just looked at solving by graphing, which is not a big deal. So today we're going to look at solving by elimination. This should still be a review for you. You did this in Algebra 1, but it's maybe been a while, so we're going to go over it again. All right, so let's take a look at this word problem. The senior and junior classes at small school planned separate trips to a county fair. The senior class rented and filled 6 vans and 1 bus with a total of 86 students. The junior class filled 1 van and 1 bus with 36 students. Every van and every bus was identical and completely full. We want to know how many students fit in each van and how many fit in each bus. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define our variables. You can usually pull that from the question part of the problem, right? We want to know how many students fit in each van and how many in each bus. So I'm going to use V and B for my 2 variables. So V is going to be the number of students per van, and B is going to be the number of students per bus. All right, you are welcome to use just X and Y for every problem if you'd like to. I usually try to make them match the problem because I think it's easier to keep them straight. Make sure, though, that when you define your variables, don't just write V equals van and B equals bus. Okay, you need to tell me what about the van and what about the bus. This one, we're specifically talking about the number of students that fit in them, but you could have been talking about the weight or the height or the color, right? You got to be specific about what about the van and the bus are you talking about. All right, step 2 is we are going to write a system of equations. So your two equations, usually one is going to be kind of one situation and the other will be the other situation. So here are 2 situations, are the senior class and the junior class. So for the senior class, they rented and filled 6 vans. So they had 6 vans with V people each, plus 1 bus with B people in it, right? That's the number of students in a bus. And that worked out to a total of 86 students. Okay, so notice that this right here is calculating the number of students in a van, calculating the number of students in buses, and then altogether the total number of students. My junior class, they filled 1 van and 1 bus, and it worked out to 36 students. Okay, and there's my system of equations. All right, so step 3 is we are going to add or subtract the 2 equations so that one variable is eliminated. You may need to add or you may need to multiply one equation first in order to make this happen. We're not going to need to do that in this problem. Okay, but what you're going to basically look at is look at your equations and look to see, okay, if I added or subtracted these, would they cancel out? No, I'd either get 6 or 5, or I'd either get 7 or 5. But these guys, if I subtract them, then they'll go away, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract these 2 equations. So I'm going to take these guys, I'm just rewriting the top one. Right, and then instead of actually subtracting each one, what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to multiply this whole thing here by a -1 so that it's going to become -1v minus 1b equals -36. Okay, and that way I don't have to worry about remembering to subtract. I find that a lot of times when people say they're going to subtract 2 equations, they'll subtract some things and then forget to subtract other things. So I just like to multiply by a negative so that I don't have to remember to subtract all the time. Okay, and then I just combine up and down. So 6v and then a -1b, that's 5v. These guys cancel each other out, which is what I wanted. 36 minus 86 is 50. And now I'm left with a little baby equation that's easy to solve, right? I just have to divide both sides by 5. So then v equals 10. All right, so now that we know v is 10, right, that's half of my answer. I want to know how many fit in each van. Got that part. We just got to figure out how many in each bus. So what I'm going to do now is just go back to either one of these 2 equations. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to plug that number in. I think I'm going to use the second one because that looks easier. So it was 1 times 10 plus 1 bus equals 36 students. So I think it's pretty easy to see that that means there's 26 students per bus. Okay, so last thing that we're going to do is just write a sentence that summarizes the answer that we just found. Okay, so I'm just going to say that 10 students fit per van and 26 fit per bus. And there we go. All right, great. So let's take a look at the next one. Small theater is selling tickets to the spring musical. First day of sales, they sold 10 adult tickets and then 14 child tickets and made a total of $140. The next day, they sold 5 adults and 9 child tickets and made $80. So how much does each ticket cost? Okay, so question, how much does each ticket cost? That's what my variables are going to be. So I think I'm going to use A and C. I'm going to use A for the cost of an adult ticket. And I'm going to use C for the cost of a child ticket. That's the 2 things they're asking me to find. All right, and my 2 kind of situations in this problem are the first day and the second day. So on the first day, they sold 10 adult tickets and 14 child tickets for a total of $140. So $10 times the cost of an adult ticket plus 14 times the cost of a child ticket is the total amount of money. All right, the next day, they sold 5 adult tickets and 9 child tickets, and it worked out to $80. Okay, and notice how it starts with 80 in the list, but I put it at the end, right? Just kind of make them line up, no big deal. All right, so in our last problem, when we solved this, right, the B's were set up where they cancel each other nicely. This one's not really set up that way. These aren't going to cancel, those aren't going to cancel, and that's what we need to have happen. So what I'm going to do is where in the last problem I just multiplied everything by a negative, I'm going to multiply one of these by a number so that they will end up being the same. And the easiest way to do that with this guy is if I multiply this 5 by negative 2. So if I multiply this 5 by negative 2, then these guys will end up canceling each other out, right? So I'm going to multiply this equation by negative 2. So that'll be negative 10a minus 18c equals negative 160. All right, and then I'm just going to recopy that other equation. So this is just that top equation. And I'm just recopying it so that everything's nice and lined up still. Okay, and then we'll just add them together like we did in the last one. Those cancel. Negative 18 plus 14 is negative 4c. And then negative 160 plus 140 is negative 20. So c is going to be 5. Great, so now we got the cost of a child ticket. Go back to either one of your equations. It doesn't matter which one. I think I'm going to use the second one because I feel like using the 5 and the 9 will be easier. So I'm going to use the second one. So I'll do 5a plus 9 times c, but we just figured out c is 5, equals 80. 9 times 5 is 45. Subtract the 45 from both sides. 5a is going to be 35, and then a is 7. All right, so then the last thing that I need to do is just go ahead and write a sentence summarizing my answers. So, child tickets cost $5, and adult tickets cost $7. And that's it. That's the end of our problem. Okay, so that is how elimination works. Again, you've learned this before, but it's probably just been a while since you did it last. Okay, so it should be a little bit of a refresher, but not totally foreign to you.